Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation, and suddenly you can't remember the name of someone you've known for years? Or maybe you walked into a room and couldn't recall why you went there in the first place. These little moments of forgetfulness happen to everyone, especially as we age. But what if these seemingly harmless lapses are actually early signs of something more serious, like Alzheimer's? As we get older, particularly after the age of 70, our bodies and minds undergo changes that we might not immediately recognize. Alzheimer's disease can begin quietly, creeping in without obvious warning signs. It can start with small, seemingly innocent forgetfulness or mood changes, and if we don't catch it early, it can progress unnoticed. In today's video, we'll be discussing 6 silent signs of Alzheimer's you might be missing before 75. Signs are often brushed off as normal aging, but could actually indicate the early stages of Alzheimer's. Through a personal story from Nancy, a daughter caring for her aging mother, we'll explore what to look out for and how catching these signs early can make a world of difference. Forgetting the names of familiar people. Have you ever been talking to a friend or family member and their name just slips your mind? It happens to everyone, especially as we age. But if forgetting the names of people you've known for years becomes a frequent occurrence, it's time to take notice. Alzheimer's often starts with this subtle sign, forgetting the names of people you should easily recognize, like friends, family, or co-workers. It's one of the first signs of cognitive decline. For many, it starts off as a simple lapse. Perhaps you forget the name of your neighbor or even your spouse's brother. But over time, these moments can become more frequent and more noticeable. Nancy's mom, Doris, who had always been sharp and lively, started having trouble remembering the names of their neighbors and even some of her own grandchildren. At first, it seemed like a minor inconvenience. But as time went on, Doris began to struggle more with recalling names and even faces of people she had known for decades. This was one of the earliest signs that something more serious might be happening in her brain. Difficulty making everyday decisions. For most of us, making decisions, whether it's choosing what to have for lunch, picking out clothes today, or deciding which TV show to watch, is second nature. But for someone with early Alzheimer's, making even the simplest decisions can become a real challenge. Nancy began to notice that her mother, Doris, was no longer able to make decisions as easily as she used to. What used to be a simple task, like picking out groceries or even choosing what to have for dinner, became overwhelming for Doris. Alzheimer's affects the brain's ability to process information efficiently, which means that everyday decisions become more difficult. People with Alzheimer's may feel confused about simple tasks, like whether to take their medications, how to prepare a meal, or even whether to wear a jacket on a chilly day. These small changes can be alarming, but they are often dismissed as signs of getting older. Trouble finding the right words. It's common for everyone, as we age, to sometimes struggle to find the right word in a conversation. But for those with early Alzheimer's, this can become a frequent and frustrating problem. Nancy noticed that her mom, Doris, who had always been a lively and engaging storyteller, began struggling with her speech. Doris would often pause in the middle of a sentence, trying to find the right word or phrase. Conversations became more difficult as Doris struggled to express herself clearly. Difficulty finding the right words, or even forgetting what you were talking about mid-sentence, is an early sign of Alzheimer's. This happens because Alzheimer's affects the brain's ability to retrieve memories and process language. Over time, this struggle with speech can make conversations harder, and people with Alzheimer's may begin to withdraw from social interactions because they feel embarrassed or frustrated. Emotional instability. One of the more subtle and often overlooked signs of Alzheimer's is emotional instability. While everyone experiences mood changes from time to time, people with Alzheimer's may experience sudden and extreme shifts in emotion that don't seem to match the situation. Doris, Nancy's mom, started having more emotional ups and downs. She would get frustrated or angry over small things, like a misplaced item, and sometimes she would become tearful or anxious for no apparent reason. These emotional shifts can be unsettling for both the person experiencing them and their loved ones. People with Alzheimer's may also become overly sensitive, or they may have trouble handling stress. Emotional instability is a common sign of Alzheimer's, and it's one that can often be mistaken for normal aging or stress. Withdrawing from social activities. Another early sign of Alzheimer's is a noticeable withdrawal from social activities and a lack of interest in things that used to bring joy. This is especially concerning when someone who was once very social suddenly becomes isolated or avoids interacting with others. Nancy noticed that her mom, Doris, who used to love hosting family gatherings and socializing with friends, began to pull away from these activities. Doris would decline invitations, not because she didn't want to go, but because she didn't feel comfortable engaging anymore. Conversations became harder for her, and she started feeling embarrassed about her memory lapses. Social withdrawal is a common sign of Alzheimer's because people with the disease often feel confused or anxious in social settings. This isolation can further contribute to depression and anxiety, making it even harder to maintain relationships. Nancy's experience with the silent signs. Nancy's experience with her mother, Doris, was one that many families can relate to. Doris had always been sharp, independent, and full of life. But over the course of a few years, Nancy started noticing small changes that were hard to ignore. Doris forgot names, had trouble making decisions, and started withdrawing from social events. At first, Nancy didn't want to believe it. She thought these changes were just part of getting older. But eventually, the changes became too noticeable to ignore, and Doris was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's. Nancy felt a mixture of emotions, relief that they had answers, but also sadness that this was a reality they had to face. Nancy now advocates for early detection and encourages others to be vigilant. She knows how important it is to catch the disease in its early stages. The sooner Alzheimer's is diagnosed, the better the chances for treatment and maintaining quality of life for as long as possible. Recognizing early signs of Alzheimer's is key to managing the disease and maintaining quality of life. If you or a loved one is experiencing symptoms like forgetfulness, difficulty making decisions, or emotional changes, talk to the doctor. Early diagnosis helps with planning and care. If you learned something today or have experienced these signs, share your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more senior health tips. Take care, and remember, act early if you notice these signs, and don't forget to share this content with your loved ones.